Okay, I did my word study on the word walk. As a word study, I chose word walk. It's nice, short, one syllable word, common use language in which nobody will be whipping out their dictionary to look it up. On the surface, it appears that I should be able to wrap up this birdhouse construction quickly. If I were to venture into verbosity, I would run the risk of witnessing the slow blink of boredom or the dreaded head bob, which would collapse the birdhouse, and I'd have to submit a pile of rubble to David for a generous critique, which I'm sure you'd be choking back a laugh. And hopefully that everybody would just think it's indigestion. But well, I remember when I first became aware of the metaphorical meaning of the word walk. I was young, somewhere between 3 and 5, blissfully unaware of what a metaphor was. Yet I was soon to learn. I'd have been doing something annoying to my father, and he would have grabbed my arm and said, "Walk with me." That expression struck fear into his children. Oh yes, I actually did walk with him, in the literal sense, kind of. His long strides forced my stubby legs to jog along on tiptoes, hardly touching the ground. But that was me walking with him. When we had gone out of sight of others, he would set my path straight, maybe verbally or maybe physically, depending on the severity of the offense. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew this walk had more meaning. Even though I knew what walk was, in the literal sense, I understood that when my father used those words in the context of my aberrant behavior, walk with me, had so much more meaning than just walk around the neighborhood. It was a dad metaphor, and nothing drilled home the meaning like a little pain. Such was my early education of the word walk. In Philippians, Paul used walk as a metaphor, and we are familiar with many walk metaphors in today's language, like walking on eggshells, or I was told to walk the talk, or sometimes I take a walk down memory lane. Many times it's suggested I should walk the plank, but I'd much rather take a walk in the park, which is almost as good as walking on air. And being a daredevil, I'd love to walk a fine line until I was tripped up, and then I'd be instantly on the walk of shame, which I'd have to walk on water to recover my good standing. This is an interesting metaphor because Jesus had to actually literally walk on water for the metaphor to become the vernacular. But the walk Paul used in Philippians are none of these. Paul, being well educated, said in Acts 22:3, "I am a Jew born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in the city. I studied under Gamaliel and was thoroughly trained in the law of our ancestors." He was keenly aware of the Old Testament walk metaphor and would utilize the well-known metaphor not only to economize words, but to establish his authority simply because it's common knowledge to everyone who studied the word. It's kind of like reminiscing about a past cultural norm. I remember when gas was 50 cents a gallon and everyone else could finally remember the same time period. Here are some examples of why Paul would have already known about the walk metaphor. Genesis 6:9. These are the records of the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his time. Noah walked with God. Deuteronomy 10:12. Now, Israel, what does the Lord your God require from you but to fear the Lord, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul? And there's Micah 6:8. He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with the Lord your God. Psalms 119:1. Psalm 119:1. Oh, how blessed are those whose way is blameless, who walk in the law of the Lord. Isaiah 30:21. Your ears will hear behind you. Your ears will hear a word behind you. This is the way, walk in it whenever you turn right or to the left. Halak in Hebrew is the most commonly used translation as walk. It can mean to physically walk or to be used metaphorically to denote one's way of life or conduct or behavior. This is how Paul used walk in Philippians 3:17. Brethren, join in following my example and observe those who walk according to the pattern you have in us. This walk is referring to the path of righteousness that we as Christians are all trying to follow, which is the majority of the walks through the Bible that we should all strive to emulate. And then Philippians 3:18, for many walk, of whom I have often told you, and now even tell you weeping, that they are enemies of the cross. In this passage, he used walk to warn people who are opposed to Christ. Therefore, their path, their lifestyle is contrary to the Christian walk. The metaphor walk that Paul uses in Philippians is the same metaphor used throughout the Bible, implying a way of living or lifestyle. Why is the biblical metaphor important? From Genesis to Revelations, 1,500 years of writing and 40 authors, this metaphor gives a common thread in the Bible. With one word, you can bring the importance of the past, giving credibility to a letter you are writing from a prison cell in Rome to a church you helped plant. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a metaphor binds 1,500 years of writing into a tapestry of symbolism.
Good. Thank you.